Well, welcome everybody. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about Sage Intacct contracts, mastering usage-based billing and revenue recognition. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Um, please use the Q&A function or the chat if you have questions during the presentation. We are happy to answer those questions, so don't be shy. We're offering CPE credit today. Please know that if you would like to receive credit, you need to answer all poll questions during the webinar. That's the way that NASBA is able to track that you're in attendance and actively participating. Following the webinar, you'll get one of two emails. The first will come from me, and it will have a recording to the presentation as well as a copy of Beth's slides. And then allow up to 2 days to receive that. For those of you who want your CPE certificate, that comes from another area of the business, and they have asked that you allow 2 weeks to receive that certificate. So if you don't receive it in 2 weeks, please let me know. And my contact information was on that previous slide. Here it is. Thank you. And it has all the details. So we're good to go there. So it's my pleasure to introduce Beth Woodall. She's a senior Sage Intacct consultant here at LBMC Technology Solutions. Some of you may have had the pleasure of working with Beth in the capacity of our Sage Intacct consultant. She's been with she's been with LBMC for 3 years. And she brought with her a wealth of experience in both finance and tax accounting, project costing and billing, and financial management. And her financial and tax accounting probably came from the years that she spent in a public accounting firm. So she is very gifted and experienced and an expert in SaaS, healthcare, and government contracting industries. So she brings a very special expertise to this discussion about contracts. So Beth, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dawn. And thank you very much for anybody who is attending today. If you were in our January session, you might remember that we were discussing the types of contracts that we can have within Intacct. We did a lot of fixed fee billing and revenue recognition discussions. But today we're going to pivot a little bit more and we're going to go a little bit more in depth into what we can do with our contracts module within Sage Intacct. We're going to discuss usage-based billing and how we can recognize revenue with it. So our learning objectives for today are to learn how to manage our usage-based billing and pricing models, see how usage can be imported into Sage Intacct via templates or through the API. We're going to understand those steps to automate revenue recognition for variable contracts and how usage is recognized in different ways depending on how we set it up. And then we're just going to kind of look at how Intacct really can support all of these various complex contract terms that we have, and how you can really define how you bill and recognize for all of your customers. It really does handle just a wealth of scenarios. All right, before we really start diving into everything here, we're going to start with a polling question.
Well, let me get that launched for you. What is the biggest challenge you face with your current accounting software when dealing with usage-based billing? And we've got a couple of choices for you here. Managing multiple pricing tiers, ensuring timely and accurate revenue recognition, handling complex billing structures, or integrating with other systems. Give you a few moments to answer. All right, I'm going to close this down. And Beth, it is a 3-way tie.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
ensuring timely and accurate revenue recognition, handling complex billing structures, and integrating with other systems were the three most
I
popular.
I actually anticipated that today. That is what we frequently hear. You know, always ensuring billing and revenue is done in time and accurate. Always, that's probably going to be, a top choice for everybody. But we are seeing a significant increase in people who are wanting to learn more about how their external platforms can integrate with Intact and help do billing and revenue recognition a bit more efficiently. So good news is we are going to touch on some of these subjects today, and throughout the series this year. That we're doing on contracts, we're really going to touch on all of it at least once or twice throughout it. All right. So, that being said, let's go over here and let's start talking about our quantity based billing. So, you're going to notice as we go through this presentation that I'm going to use the terms usage and quantity pretty much interchangeably. Intact tends to do that too. So, when we are using the quantity based billing method or usage based billing method within contracts, there are really two types to choose from. The first is going to be variable. Now, with variable, the quantity for the contract line is unknown. Quantities will vary each period. You may not even have some for some periods. Quantities may be billed at different rates as well. So, for these variable ones, there is usually no deferred revenue schedule unless you are using included units, and we'll talk about that here in a second. With variable, you do have those billing options of having a standard variable, which again would have no deferred revenue, and variable with included units. Those included units would have that deferred revenue schedule, um, but we'll look at those a little bit closer here in a second. The second option that we can have with quantity based billing is committed quantity. Now, committed quantity kind of sounds like, you know, uh, it seems like what it sounds like here. We have quantities and usage rates that are known up front. And quantities consumed each period are billed at the appropriate usage rate. And then it creates a deferred revenue schedule for the full committed amount. Again, because we know up front what the customer is committing to purchasing, we can have a deferred revenue schedule and we have a bit more flexibility about how and when that usage gets recognized as it's used up. We're going to start by talking about just your standard variable quantity usage. A lot of times, this is the initial use case that people think of when we talk about usage billing. So for variable quantity, you are going to add usage data for the actual quantity used each period. That's typically billed in arrears. The system bills for the usage amount, and it's recorded as the usage times the rate. The system posts the usage amount directly to billed sales revenue. It is not deferred. So looking at this example here, we have a rate of $5 per unit. We can see over here in July that we recorded 55 units. So our usage amount is $275. Now, um, they are billing that out on July 31st. We do have a lot of customers who they tend to not get that usage number until sometime, maybe the beginning or mid of the following month. And so they may be billing out July's usage in August, and so on and so forth. So in variable quantity usage, you can bill in arrears even after your contract line end date has occurred. And that's because the system knows that you're probably going to have some stragglers, if you will, that you're going to need to get into the system. So it is going to allow you to bill that final usage after the technical contract end date. But some customers, they do, if the usage occurred in July, they are going to date that invoice and have that revenue posting at the end of July. It is important to understand, and we're going to talk about revenue recognition here shortly, that with variable quantity usage, because there is no deferred revenue element here, your revenue is recognized immediately when it is invoiced, and it's not necessarily based on the date that the usage occurred. That is something just to keep in mind here. We are going to talk about how you can get something set up in that way. But for purposes of this, it is going to be recognized when you invoice it. So we can see here, we've got 55 units recorded for July, 41 units recorded, 41 units recorded in August. And then there's no more usage until December, where they've got 40 units. So again, we have no idea how much the client is going to be using throughout this contract. So because that is the case, we are just going to use this standard variable quantity usage. All right, now there is the option to do variable quantity, but with included units. Now, with included units, what that means is you can set a flat amount and an included unit amount for a particular item. You define if the quantity is going to be recurring and if that is going to be, is that going to reset after every single invoice, or do we want that recurring amount to reset at the end of the contract? So you do get a little bit of flexibility there. Most of the time when people talk about included units, they're generally including that and resetting that amount every month. So after every time it's invoiced, kind of it goes back to, hey, if you've got 40 included units this month, I've used up, maybe 39. I'm still getting invoiced for 40. That's going to get reset after it gets invoiced out. And then I'm back to, I've got 40 units again. Now, when you have included units and you have an overage, that overage is going to be billed and recognized just like standard variable quantity. So looking at our example here, in July, we have 55 units recorded, but we had 40 that were included for a flat $10 for the month. Anything that goes over 40, we're being charged $5 per unit. So in July, I can see that I've got 55 units that we used. We're getting billed a flat $10 to cover those first 40. And then we have an additional 15 that gets billed out. And we have a total then that we're going to get billed between the flat amount and the overage. Here in August, kind of had that same scenario, but we only went over by one. So we're getting billed the flat amount. And then we've got our overage amount, so it's only $5. So we're sitting at $15 for the month. Now, again, we don't have anything until December here, and we didn't go over anything. So we used our 40. We didn't go over anything, so we're just getting billed our 10. Now, because we have an included amount that we know that we're going to invoice each month, regardless if they use it or they do not, there is an element here that we can set up a deferred schedule for. So for the 40 included units per month, we have $10 that we're billing. We know $10 every month we're going to be billing out. So because of that, we can tell the system, hey, I know that we're going to be billing out $120 worth of usage this year. So I want to straight line it. I want to use a daily rate. Whatever the case may be, we can set up a deferred schedule for that and recognize it in a manner that's very similar to a fixed fee amount, because in essence, there is an element there that is fixed. All right. So let's talk about committed quantity usage. Now, I've kind of, throughout these implementations and working with customers, committed quantity seems to be something that people don't use as much as they probably should. I think sometimes committed quantity is a little bit of this mystical workflow within Intact, but it actually works really neat. I think there's a lot of use cases for it. With committed quantity usage billing, we're going to define the committed quantity and usage rate for the entire contract line term. The system calculates the flat fixed amount of the contract line. So that's the committed quantity times the rate. You're going to add usage data for the quantity consumed each period that counts towards the committed quantity. And then the system bills for the consumed amount, which is the recorded usage times the rate. And then the system defers the flat fixed amount and recognizes it according to the revenue schedule. Again, because we are able to define a minimum of what we're going to be billing and recognizing throughout this contract term, we are able to have a deferred revenue schedule, and we are able to recognize that revenue in multiple ways. So that could be straight lining, again, daily. It could be based on a predefined template, like a predefined amount. But committed quantity is the only usage revenue recognition type where as you use the usage, that is when you can get the system to recognize the usage. So if I use and I've got my usage record dated for January 31st, my revenue is also going to be associated in January with it. Again, this is the only type for usage billing, committed quantity, where we can tell the system to recognize revenue according to the date of the usage. Um, that is just that's just the way it's configured in the system. All right. So looking at this example, we've got a committed quantity of 500 and a rate of $10 per unit. So ultimately, our flat fixed amount is going to be 500 times the $10 per unit, and that's going to equal 5,000. So in July, we recorded that we've got 20 units that we used up. So we have used $200 worth of our committed quantity. In August, we used 35. So we're going to invoice out $350. We've used up 35 of our 500 units that's included. And then in December, we've got 90 units that we've used up, and we're going to invoice out $900. Now, what's really nice about the committed quantity is we are able to tell the system what we want it to do at the end of the contract term if we've either gone over our included units or we have gone under our included units. So, unlike variable usage, where we ultimately do not know how much usage a customer will have, committed quantity usage defines a minimum amount the customer will purchase. But like I was saying, what happens when the customer doesn't use the exact amount we have set on the contract? So Intact is going to allow you to determine what you want to do with the difference. Unused quantity at the end of the contract, you can choose to bill the unused quantity, cancel the unused quantity, or do nothing. Usage exceeding the committed quantity, you're going to be able to choose to either bill the overage, not allow any overages, or do nothing. If you opt to bill for the overage, the system is going to treat that excess as variable usage and recognize the associated revenue upon invoicing. Typically, when I do have customers who use this option, they typically set to bill out any unused quantity. so that they, the customers for them have basically said, we are committing to purchasing this amount, whether we use it or not. So they're going to bill out that unused quantity at the end of the contract term, and they will allow overages because they just bill that out as variable usage. The system is able to calculate, hey, you've used up all of your included units or your committed units, and we are now just going to bill that out at a specific rate. All right, I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. Do we have any questions so far, Dawn?
We don't, Beth. I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A
Okay.
or the chat, so I think we can proceed.
Awesome. I know this is a little bit like drinking out of a fire hose. It's a lot of information, but we get a lot of questions about usage. So I know this is a big topic for everybody. So it's important to understand that billing price lists go hand in hand with usage billing. Any contract line that will use variable quantity usage billing requires a billing price list assigned on the contract. And since committed usage could also have overages that are billed out as variables, billing price lists are typically recommended for all contracts that are going to have usage. Um, if you remember if you were on our previous webinar in January and we were talking about fixed price contract lines, you can also have billing price lists assigned to contracts, and it can work with fixed billing lines as well. So they are extremely handy, very useful, but you're really going to need them when it comes to usage-based billing. Billing price lists, they're basically used to create pricing strategies for items whose prices are determined based on a fixed fee, the quantity used, or the contracted quantity. You can enter prices per thousands, define discount tiers, set minimum flat fees, and more in billing price lists. You can also have multiple billing price lists. For example, you could have one billing price list per customer. The billing price list is a container for billing price list entries. You're going to create the list name, and then you're going to create the billing price list entries associated with the list. After you create a billing price list, you're going to add those billing price list entries for each item that you're going to be billing. Not only are we able to have as many billing price lists and price list entries that we want, you can also set defined start and end dates. This means that you can automatically build in price increases for your customers based on the contract terms you have agreed upon, even if that is several years into the future. The really nice thing that Intacct does is because we are able to define start dates for each of our entries on our billing price list, that means that as we add usage to the system, let's say I'm at the end of the year and I'm adding usage for December, but maybe we're at maybe January 1, January 2. I'm adding stuff in for December. Maybe I'm also adding in stuff for January for the next year. And there's two different rates that need to be used. The system is smart enough to say, hey, your usage date here needs to use the, line number 2 on this billing price list. But your January usage, the rate for that has now increased. So the system is calculating all of that for you. So you don't have to remember to go, oh man, I got to go change that rate now. The system is going to handle all of that for you. So this is extremely beneficial when you're using billing price lists. It's also very nice to be able to go and see, hey, as we were entering stuff into the system, you know, what historically have we been charging for this? So you're able to kind of see, in a little snapshot form of what you have been billing on these particular price lists. So there's two types that you can select from. You've got a range billing price list and you've got tiered billing price list. A range is going to be used mainly for those high volume quantities. So there's things like grouped in dozens, hundreds, thousands. And then tiered is going to be used for defining various pricing tiers. I will say, just in our industry, especially with SaaS, we typically see more of tiered billing instead of range. Um, I always, when I talk about ranges, I think like widgets and screws and little parts like that we're trying to quantify in large batches. Whereas most of the time, my clients, I'm seeing people use things like subscription users, various things like that. That's going to be more so geared towards your tiered billing price list. So with tiered billing price lists, there's really three options you get to choose from. So when we say, hey, we are going to select tiered price type, then we have to select a tier pricing option. You have three options that you get to choose from. You have volume, which is the option if you want the total quantity to be priced at the rate in which the quantity falls. Step uses if you want the item to be priced at successive tiers in which the quantity falls. And then absolute, we're going to use this option if we want to set a specific amount to be charged when the quantity falls within a tier. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a visual person. I can read that all day long. I'm just more of a visual person. So let's look and see what that means. All right. Here we have added two tiers onto a billing price list entry. For volume and step, tier one is going to be $100 per user for 0 to 10 users. And then we're going to drop that down to $90 per user for anything between 11 and 20. Now, for absolute, because we are defining a set amount to be billed for each of those tiers, anything from 0 to 10 is going to be billed 1,000. Anything from 11 to 20 is going to be billed at 1,800. So, what does that look like if we are going to be billing for 15 users? I love this visual because it really does show you how the little nuances of how you choose to set this up, how it's going to affect what you invoice. So, with volume, we are actually going to be falling and saying, hey, because 15 falls within tier 2, then all 15 of my users are going to be $90 per user. And so we're going to invoice 1,350. Now, how that differs with step is step, we're going those successive tier pricing. So because we have a minimum of 10 users, we're going to bill all 10 at the rate of $100 per user. And then the additional 5 that fall into tier 2, then we're going to bill that out at $90 a user. So in this instance, now we're billing 1,450. So just that one change, saying, hey, we're going to bill based on volume or we're going to bill based on step, that's $100 difference, just that one little setting. So it is really important to understand how you want to set it up. But I love this visual because it's just showing you how nuanced and specific you can be. And this could go down to the very customer level. So you get to be as granular as you want to, or as sweeping, as you want to. So for 15 users though, with absolute, because we are defining a set amount to be billed, where the user count falls into which tier, we can see that this falls into tier 2. And so we are going to bill out a flat 1,800. That flat 1,800 would have been the case whether we build out 11 or 20. So I don't see as many people using absolute, but there are use cases for it. And it is really all down to how you structure your pricing with your customer. But it is, I just love seeing this visual because I try to use it for all of my clients who are using tiered pricing because it is just I just love the ability how we get to define just at a really granular level how we want the system to operate. All right, let's go to poll question number 2.
Yeah, let's get that launched. And this is a multiple choice question for everyone. Which feature of Sage Intacct are you the most interested in learning about? So we've got automated revenue recognition as a choice, flexible billing structures, real-time financial reporting, seamless integrations with CRM systems. And as I mentioned, you can choose more than one here. And Beth, is the benefit of the seamless integration with CRM systems sort of the ability to do quote to cash?
Yeah, so yes and no. We've got a lot of customers who use their integrations with CRMs in various ways. We've got some who they use it to its fullest capacity, where everything in their CRM is truly feeding into Intact. It's creating new customers, it's creating contacts, it's creating contracts, updating things, bringing in usage. But then we have some people who they are only using it in just, smaller ways where they tend to use it in a manner that they're they have some checks and balances between what's happening in CRM with maybe their sales team and having kind of a double check or kind of a sign off in a way from their accounting team within the system. So you may have some setups where it can create customers, it can feed over maybe sales orders or set up contracts in a draft state or add contract lines in a draft state, and then at that point their accounting team steps in, kind of reviews to make sure that everything is set up correctly, and then they are the ones who initially kick everything off. So it's used in various ways, but honestly, if you have any type of integration with your CRM and Intact, you are going to pick up efficiencies. And when we have things like these automations, one of the nice things about it is it can help to reduce on that human error element, and help cut down on some of the time that you're having to do manually before. So
Oh, great. Well, thank you for explaining those different scenarios that you've seen with our customer base.
yeah,
Results are in. 80% of the audience is interested in automated revenue recognition.
awesome.
Um, yeah, 60% are interested in flexible billing structures, 40% in real-time financial reporting, and then another 60% for the seamless integrations with CRM.
Yeah, I feel like all of those they go so hand in hand a lot of times. Integrations, they are going to speed up things. With usage-based revenue, for a lot of our usage scenarios, revenue is going to be recognized um, immediately when you invoice it. We'll talk about revenue here in a second, but even for the elements that do have a deferred revenue schedule, you have the ability within Intact to tell the system whether you want it to post that deferred revenue, post the revenue recognition monthly or whatever the frequency is, if you want to do that manually, or if you want to have that automated. I've got plenty of customers who they might, when they first start out using Intact, they might set up their contracts to recognize revenue manually just so that they truly understand and have a good grasp on how the system recognizes it, what's the process. And then once they feel really good about it, then they can transition over to automated postings. But I've got some clients who pick it up right off the bat and they say, "Hey, the system can do this for me. Hey, let's go. I'd love that. Less work for me to have to do, and I'm just going to review it in my monthly reconciliation." So lots of options there. It does seem, like everybody is really interested in CRM integrations and that type of thing and how that's going to help. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Um, so without further ado, let's talk about how we get usage actually into the system. We've set up our contract lines. We've told the system how we want to bill it. Okay, well, how do we get it into the system in the first place? So we really have three options when it comes to getting usage into Intact. The first is kind of the obvious one. We can manually put it in via the UI. So going into the user interface, we can add usage whenever we choose to. There is a section within the contracts module that is specifically the usage area. When I go into that area, we'll look at it here in a second when we go into a demo, but we're able to see all the usage that's been brought in for all contract lines. We're able to also see when it's been invoiced, and some other, data points about it. But over here on the left, this little table is if I went into that usage area and just clicked the button to add usage. I'm going to select my contract. I'm going to select my contract line, my usage date, my quantity used, and then I can enter a service period, start and end date. Notice that this is not required. This is actually a new feature from Intact. They rolled this out, I believe, maybe sometime last year. I can't remember the exact date. But Intact has rolled out service periods on contract lines, and they feed over to your invoices. This has been a big ask for a lot of customers, and they rolled that out. So now we are able to define service periods when we are putting in our usage, and it flows through. And customers can see that on the invoice, and they can know exactly what that usage, what time frame that usage covered. So that's been something that everybody has been asking for a long time. It is a very valuable, new workflow. Additionally, I don't have to just go into the usage area within the contracts module. I can go directly to my contract line. If I go to my contract line, you will see a tab on my contract line for usage. The nice thing about this is I'm able to kind of see a snapshot of all of my usage on this particular contract line. I can just hit the button and just say, hey, I'm going to add some usage here, just one by one. It'll give me a pop-up very similar to this, but the first two lines will automatically be filled in because I'm coming from my contract line itself. So it already knows which ones it's associated with. I'm also able to see when the contract usage was billed out. So I can see exactly, when it was invoiced. I can see what invoice it was tied to. And again, because these are older, from a demo environment, you can see I don't have these service periods populated right now, but I could. I could have had those populated. Again, this is an older date here. So that's the way we do it through the actual user interface. And it's a little bit of a onesie twosie. So it's not necessarily the most time efficient method, but it is available if you choose to do so. All right, now the one that I typically see used the most is entering usage via a template that they can import into the system. Now, if you know anything about templates and Intact and importing, Intact allows you to import into so many areas, in the system, and contract usage is the same. You're going to be able to download a template from Intact, and you will just need to plug in your data. So as you can see here, there's really not much that you have to plug in here. Here's the benefit though. I'm not having to do it onesies, twosies like my manual user interface. I'm able to add multiple contracts, multiple contract lines, multiple usage dates, all in one import file. It is important to know that Intact, when you have an import file, Intact reads those from top to bottom. So if you have usage that maybe spans, multiple dates, you will want to list them oldest to newest. Otherwise, it will give you an error. But you can see here, there's just really not much I have to plug in here. I've got my contract ID, I'm specifying my line number, my usage date, my quantity, and my service start and end periods. Um, it is just like going through the user interface, but I'm doing a whole lot at one time. We have a lot of customers who use this. They may not have any integration set up to bring things in here, but let's say they have to go retrieve their usage data from an external platform every single month. Well, a lot of times they're able to export that data from that external platform and literally just plug some numbers into a template and import it right into Intacct. And they're ready for the next step then. They're ready to invoice that out. Again, Intacct is saying we want to make this as easy and painless as possible. We want to make this efficient for your billing team. We all know that billing teams out there, they wear so many hats. We want to try and make things as easy as possible, but still be accurate. So, template importing is just one way that Intacct allows that. All right. Now, for all of my integration people who want to have things talking to Intacct, yes, you can enter usage via the API. Now, you may or may not be familiar with APIs and how they work, but think of an API, it's basically like a waiter, okay, at a restaurant. So a waiter comes, takes your order, they deliver it to the kitchen, and then they bring back your food. Okay, so an API works very similar to that, but an API is going to take requests from one software, they're going to deliver it to another system, and then it's going to return the results. So it just allows different software programs to communicate and work together. So Sage Intacct supports both XML API, and more recently, we now support REST API for importing contract usage. Many of our clients have custom integrations that import their usage on a recurring basis. One of the benefits of partnering with LBMC Technology Solutions is that not only can we help implement Sage Intacct for you and support you continuously after you go live, but we also have some really smart people within the LBMC Technologies, and we have an amazing software development team who have helped and built custom integrations for clients from existing platforms into Intacct to help with this very issue. So I like to try to think of LBMC as a little bit of a one-stop shop. We're able to meet so many needs. We have various teams with tons and tons of resources and backgrounds and offerings. And so this is one way that we work with other team members, like our software development team, where we can help you with your integrations from whatever platform it may be into Intacct. So do keep that in mind. I know a lot of this kind of looks like gibberish, but if you have dealt with any type of API, with maybe with Postman or things like that, this might look a little familiar for you. But just know that this is a really big deal for a lot of clients, especially when we talk about integrations with things like CRM. Right. Any questions so far?
Jack, I don't think so. Checking the Q&A in the chat, and we're good to move forward, Beth.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about revenue recognition. We've gotten our usage into Intacct. We've invoiced it based on how we configured the contract line and the billing price list. All it's left to do is recognize usage-based revenue. So let's start first with variable quantity. So revenue is recognized when it is billed, not when it is used, not the date of the usage. So let's look at this example here. We've got our contract invoice. We have invoiced it out in, I think I've got January on here. I think I cut the date off here. But I've built out my usage. And if I look at how that posts in the system, we can see that I am invoicing it on the 31st of January, and I am directly hitting accounts receivable and revenue. There is no deferred revenue element in these type of usage because we don't know what we would be billing, right? There's no predefined quantity. We have no idea how much the customer is going to be using or if they're even going to have any usage this month. Um, so, because of that, it is just going to recognize the usage when we invoice it, not necessarily on the date that we had posted the usage. Variable quantity with included units works slightly different because we are able to determine at least a minimum of usage that will be billed out each month. The full included units revenue amount can be deferred and recognized in various ways. Like you see here, where we've got included units that we have straight lined over the contract term. So we are able to recognize $1,000 each month. That's for our included units. However, if we go over those included units, it is going to be treated just like standard variable usage, where it is going to, upon invoicing, hit revenue directly. So here, this is more so just kind of a example of a posting from an invoice where you do see kind of these deferred revenue elements where it's hitting. But looking down here, I am able to see this is an overage line that got billed out. It is hitting accounts receivable and hitting directly to my revenue. Um, there's no reason to have it, hit deferred because, again, it's just we didn't know if this was going to be an element or not on this invoice. So it is going to be recognized upon invoicing. Okay, so committed quantity. This is where it gets a little bit different because we get a smidge more flexibility. With committed quantity, again, we are able to know at least some of what is going to be billed during this contract. Because we know that I have a committed amount with a predefined rate, I know that the total that I am going to be billing and recognizing is going to be a certain amount. So in this example over here to the right, I've got 45,000 that I know that I'm going to bill out at some point throughout this contract term. Now, I initially can set up my revenue schedule in multiple ways here. In this example, I've defined that it is going to recognize by a daily rate. So it's going to look at how many days in the month and calculate that out accordingly. But remember at the beginning of this presentation, I specified that this is the only one that you can actually set a revenue template for quantity-based revenue recognition. When you select that, that is the only time that when you import the usage for it, that it is going to recognize the revenue for it when it's dated, when the usage is dated, not necessarily when it's invoiced. So that is of a benefit there. But again, it is the only type of usage that you can do that on is the committed quantity. Now, the difference here, we do know ultimately how much we plan to bill and recognize, but there is a little bit of a mysterious element, if you will, on what happens at the end of the contract for if we have unused amounts. So if we have unused amounts, do we want to just go ahead and bill it and recognize that? We can. Or let's say you choose you don't want to bill it out. You don't want to bill it out, and so you're able to tell the system, hey, kind of a true up element where you're saying we're not going to bill it out. We want to make that adjustment. And then if we exceed the committed quantity, we're able to then tell the system, hey, I want you to bill it. And again, because we have this element of they may or may not go over, anything that they do go over is going to be treated like variable usage where it is recognized when you invoice it. Okay. Let's go to poll question number 3.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. Beth, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide.
Yeah.
So the question being asked is, will you be attending Sage Future in June? And Sage Future is the customer and prospect conference and Sage Intacct is a big part of this that will be happening in Atlanta, June 3rd through the 5th. And earlier, um, I was bragging about Beth's expertise, and I wanted to point out, let me end the poll here. 50-50, half the
Awesome.
audience is going and half are not. Um, but what I wanted to share is that um, it's not just me that recognizes the talent of our Sage Intacct consultants here at LBMC Tech. Sage Intacct recognizes the expertise of our consultants, and 3 of our team members are going to be presenting at Sage Future. Angela Payne is going to be talking about unlocking in-depth financial insights with Sage Intacct. And then she's going to be teaming up with another one of our consultants, Shay Simpson, for month-end close made easy, step-by-step tips and time-saving shortcuts for new users. And then Beth, who's been presenting today, is going to be talking about hybrid billing, tracking consumption usage. So we're just thrilled that we have received this invitation for Sage Future. And for our audience, I hope that that makes you feel like, coming to these events that are presented by our consultants, you're getting the best experts in the industry. So thank you. And Beth, it's back to you.
All right. I am happy to hear that we've got some who are going to be attending Sage Future. Please do let us know if you are planning to be there so that we can make sure to say hi in person. We love seeing our clients in person. We love making that connection. I do truly feel like one of the things that makes me very proud to be at LBMC Technology Solutions is that we care for our customers. And, we want to make sure that that relationship stands the test of time. We're here for you for the long haul. So please do find us if you're at the conference, and we would love for you to attend our sessions. It's always nice to see a friendly face out in the audience. Just don't bring any like foam fingers or anything like that. But I mean, you could. I don't know. All right. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a demo planned, but I seem to have kind of talked a whole lot today, and we are getting close to the top of the hour. We're at 11:54. Don, I'm going to say that I probably wouldn't be able to get through much on a demo here. So if you're okay with it, we may just go ahead and launch out poll question number 4.
Sure. While I'm doing that, was part of the demo maybe sharing some dashboards that we could take a look at?
Actually, I didn't have any
Oh,
dashboards,
okay.
but what we can do is I can add some to the presentation for everybody to see because I know you're going to be sending out these slides. So we can
Yes.
add some
Mhm.
just some nice screenshots at the end for everybody to see. And if you have any questions about what we add there, just let us know. Feel free to reach out.
Great. So at the end of all of our webinars, we know that we're sharing a lot of information. And as you're thinking about whether you're moving from a legacy system to the cloud or you're looking to upgrade from an entry-level cloud solution to Sage Intacct, you're probably wondering how it would match up with you specifically, your organization, your challenges, your aspirations for the future. And so, what we like to offer is what we call a lunch and learn all about you, where you share with us what your challenges and aspirations are. We will take care of lunch. We can do that virtually. We can do that in person. You are absolutely free to invite members of your team, and we'll bring together a team of experts to talk about um, all things technology, software, and SaaS related. So thank you for attending today. And Beth, thank you so much for the work that you put into this presentation
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the great information that was shared. I do want to point out that we will have two more sessions presented by Beth on the SaaS strategies that we've been talking about. We're at the midway point, and coming up in July, will be Beth will be sharing streamlining bundled invoicing with Sage Intacct. And then in October, she'll be talking about unlocking contract insights, Sage Intacct reporting. And we will be sending out invitations to that in the very near future. So please keep that in mind, and we hope to see you at a future LBMC Tech event. Thanks everyone for attending today, and thank you, Beth.
Thank you.